news for you. US President Donald Trump on Monday threatened widespread destruction of Iran's energy resources and other vital infrastructure, including desalination plants, if a deal to end the war is not reached shortly. Tehran meanwhile struck a key water and electrical plant in Kuwait, and an oil refinery in Israel came under attack. Israel and the US launched a new wave of strikes on Iran as the war raged with no end in sight. Trump's new threat in a social media post and earlier comments in an interview with the Financial Times that suggested US troops could seize Iran's Karg Island oil export hub highlighted a frequent tactic. He has repeatedly claimed to be making diplomatic progress, though Tehran denies negotiating directly while ramping up his threats. It remains unclear where the diplomatic effort facilitated by Pakistan stands. Iran's continuing attack on its Gulf neighbors could further complicate any talks. The UAE has been hard hit and is signaling it wants Iran disarmed in any ceasefire. In a social media post, Trump said, "Great progress is being made in talks with Iran to end military operations," but he bristled that if a deal is not reached shortly and if the Strait of Hormuz is not immediately reopened, the US would broaden its offensive by completely obliterating power plants, oil wells, Karg Island, and possibly even desalination plants. Indian sorry, Indian killed in Kuwait. An Indian national has been killed in Kuwait in Iranian strikes on a power and water desalination plant, taking the total number of Indian fatalities from the ongoing conflict in West Asia to 8 since it began a month back. Iran deliberates on NPT exit. Iran's parliament is reviewing a possible exit from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, the country's foreign ministry said, while insisting Tehran hasn't and won't seek nuclear weapons. It added that Tehran would respect the treaty as long as it is a member. Census 2027 exercise to start in Karnataka from tomorrow. Census 2027 will commence in Karnataka with self-enumeration on April 1, followed by a month-long house-to-house house listing and housing census starting on April 16. The house listing and housing census is the first phase of census and will be conducted across India between April 1 and September 30 this year, during which details related to housing conditions will be collected. This will be followed by the second phase in February next year, when population is counted and details of caste, demographic, socio-economic, cultural and other details of every member in each household are collected. Along with Karnataka, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Goa, Sikkim, Odisha, Lakshadweep, Mizoram and Delhi will start the process on April 1. The teachers who conducted last year's surveys of the state government are under pressure again as they have to undertake the center's census work. Bengaluru Biz Corridor project takes off with PH1 tender. In a major milestone for the long-awaited Bengaluru Business Corridor, the Bangalore Development Authority has invited global tenders for a 19.80 kilometer project connecting Tumakuru Road and Ballari Road on city's outskirts. This is the first phase of the 74-kilometer project, which has been split into three packages based on land acquisition progress. According to the documents, the first phase, estimated to cost rupees 3,348 crore, comprises three major interchanges at Madavara, the Doddaballapur Junction and Ballari Road, a grade separator at Hesaragatta Junction, 5 km from flyovers and major bridges, three railway overbridges across Tumakuru, Doddaballapur, Chikballapur lines, and dedicated crossings over forest and lake are part of the plan. The project will adopt the design, build, operate and transfer model with a 36-month construction timeline and 10 years of operation and maintenance. In the second phase, BDA plans to take up the Ballari Road, Old Madras Road stretch via Hennuru Road. The third phase will cover the stretch up to Hosur Road. BDA has provided for integrating the metro along the corridor. The 65-meter wide stretch will have 12 lanes. Of these, 8 lanes will be part of the main carriageway and 4 lanes are service roads. About 6 toll plazas are planned. We have more or less acquired 83% of land for the first phase. LK Atik, chairperson of Bengaluru Business Corridor Limited, told DH, adding the project has undergone changes including integration with Nice Road at Madavara. Rapido bike rider held on molestation charge. A Rapido bike rider has been arrested for allegedly molesting a woman passenger who had hailed a ride from BTM layout to Indira Nagar. The incident was reported around 8 pm on March 26, according to the police. According to the FIR, the suspect, Muhammad Khaza, a resident of Devarajanahalli, allegedly behaved inappropriately and repeatedly touched the complainant, though she resisted his advances. The suspect even asked the passenger to allow him to touch her inappropriately, the complaint stated. Social media news creators to come under INB ministry ambit. Social media content creators, including YouTubers and influencers who post news related content online, could soon face the same government oversight as professional news publishers, as the center has proposed tweaks to the information technology rules. The Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology on Monday issued the draft Information Technology, Intermediary Guidelines and Digital Media Ethics Code, Second Amendment Rules 2026, seeking stakeholders' views by April 14. The proposal seeks to bring news and current affairs content posted by private individuals, including YouTubers, Instagram Reels creators, X users, and other influencers with significant followings under Part 3 of the rules. Part 3 currently governs digital media ethics and enforces a three-tier content oversight mechanism, which previously applied only to professional media organizations such as publishers, online news portals, and news aggregators. The existing rules explicitly excluded any individual or user who is not transmitting content in the course of systematic business, professional, or commercial activity. Navy staffer kills woman, stuffs body in fridge. In a shocking incident, a civilian employee of the Indian Navy killed a woman, cut her body into pieces and stored it in a refrigerator in Andhra Pradesh's Visakhapatnam. He later surrendered. According to police sources, Chintada Ravindra's wife had left for her parents' home a month ago for childbirth. On Sunday, Ravindra invited the victim, whom he met on a dating app, to his house. After an argument, he killed her. He claimed that the woman was harassing him for money. When the police brought him to the apartment for scene reconstruction, The victim's relatives attempted to attack him. Plan to raise Chinnaswamy Stadium capacity (DKS). Deputy Chief Minister D.K. Shivkumar on Monday stated that the government is considering proposals to increase the seating capacity of M. Chinnaswamy Stadium. If we can increase the capacity by 20,000, it would be good, he said. Shivkumar said the Karnataka State Cricket Association had called for an expression of interest for the enhancement of seats, and the government will take a call on approving them once the final proposals are submitted. Tamil Nadu and many other states have done this. We can increase the number of seats by taking up work in phases. We have asked the KSCA to present the proposals. The government will study them and approve, he said. That apart, the government is also identifying land to build a new stadium, and inspections were held at a couple of locations, he said. KRCA spokesperson Vinay Mrityunjaya, who was part of the meeting, confirmed to DH that the association was looking towards increasing the stadium capacity. Very soon, the KSCA will place advertisements seeking the expression of interest from experts in architecture on how to increase the capacity of the Chinnaswamy Stadium. This is exactly what our President Venkatesh Prasad told the Deputy Chief Minister. Since this is an old stadium, many factors are at play and it needs a detailed study. On building a new stadium, Mrityunjaya said, Deputy Chief Minister said the government is willing to allocate land on the outskirts of the city for expanding our cricketing infrastructure. This is apart from our idea about increasing the Chinnaswamy capacity. KSCA is also looking for it. Rupee breaches 95 mark, settles at 94.70. The rupee breached the psychologically important 95 per US dollar mark in intraday trade on Monday and settled marginally higher at 94.70 against the greenback after Iran war escalation jolted global markets. February. It is about NIMHANS study. Patients with Parkinson's disease in India could soon benefit from treatments that directly target the underlying cause of the condition. New research from the National Institute of Mental Health and Neuroscience suggests. The study, published in the international journal Cells and led by Dr. Indrani Datta of NIMHANS, shows that the LRRK2 I1371IV variant, found mainly in Indian and East Asian patients, causes more damage to the brain cells than G2019S, the most studied Parkinson's mutation globally. This misclassification meant that despite clinicians observing severe motor symptoms, earlier disease onset, cognitive impairment, and poor response to standard therapies in patients carrying I137IV, the scientific community lacked cellular and molecular evidence to fully assess its impact. Every aggregator platform must constitute a dispute resolution committee of minimum 6 members to resolve issues faced by gig workers as per the Karnataka platform based gig workers rules. The rules published in the Gazette on March 26 note that each such internal dispute resolution committee must comprise a president, two managing staff, and at least three senior gig workers. The committee must have at least two female members. The rules mandate that aggregator companies Swiggy, Zomato, Ola, Uber, and so on should pay the welfare fee once every 3 months. As per the rules, the gig workers who register with the Gig Workers Welfare Board can avail of facilities such as life insurance, accident, medical and physical handicap benefits, protection for aged persons, and so on. Within 7 days of information about any violation, the concerned gig worker can register a complaint with the relevant documents and information with the Internal Grievance Redressal Committee. DK Suresh against legislators demanding free IPL tickets. Congress leader and Bamul President DK Suresh on Monday stated that legislators demanding free IPL ticket was wrong. Those who wish to watch the match should personally pay and watch it, Suresh told reporters here. Suresh reminded how the same legislators criticized the IPL following the stadium stampede that claimed 11 lives. Tickets are being given since the beginning, but now the issue is being used for political propaganda. Even BJP legislators have received IPL tickets. Also, IPL is not a tournament where national team plays. It is a commercial event. So, public representatives should not focus on such matters, he said. Responding to a question on shifting the Chinnaswamy Stadium, he said, Bengaluru needs 4 stadiums in 4 directions. Apart from Kantirava Stadium, KSEA and the football stadium, there are no other major facilities. As an MP, I had proposed reserving 100 acres for stadiums at Surya City and the project was approved in the cabinet. A world-class stadium will come up on 50 to 60 acres. I also urged the Deputy Chief Minister to build a stadium in Shivram Karant layout through BDA. A stadium in Bidadi is under discussion, he added. Grading for third language, purely politics, Ashoka. Leader of the opposition in the Legislative Assembly, R. Ashoka, on Monday slammed the state government's decision to introduce grading system for the third language in the SSLC exams. Overall marks to be reduced from 625 to 525 as purely politics. The School Education and Literacy Department's decision will be applicable for the ongoing SSLC examination. Addressing a press conference, Ashoka said, this decision has been taken when students have prepared for a year to write the exams. If the government had any common sense, they should have decided in the beginning itself. Now, lakhs of students have studied Hindi day and night. This would have added to their percentage. This is a unilateral decision. Are they playing around? Nothing that children will be very sensitive. Ashoka said the decision was an injustice to the students. Ashoka dubbed Urdu a foreign and non-Indian language and accused the Congress of promoting it for the sake of votes. He recollected that Mahatma Gandhi founded the Dakshin Bharat Hindi Prachar Sabha in 1918. How will you respect Mahatma Gandhi ji? When Gandhi ji's name was removed from the NREGA scheme, they behaved as though a great injustice had happened. Why don't you do a similar thing now? He also pointed out that former Prime Ministers Jawaharlal Nehru and Indira Gandhi had also promoted the 3-language formula. If Kannada children study IAS and IPS and go to Hindi speaking states, what language will they speak there? This decision has been taken only out of anger against Prime Minister Narendra Modi. This is nothing but vote bank politics and an act of throwing stones in the lives of children. Will you close down Hindi department in varsities? Horatti. Terming the government's move to give grades for the third language in SSLC examinations and not considering that while calculating the overall percentage as a wrong decision. Infant swallows a flower and chokes to death. A 6-month-old baby boy died on Saturday after accidentally swallowing a hibiscus flower kept on the doorstep for puja at his house in Dodda Hajjuru village of the taluk. The deceased Chinmayi Gowda was the second son of Sudarshan and Navya. The tragedy occurred while the infant was playing with his elder brother inside the house. Officials said the child picked up the flower and swallowed it. Soon he experienced severe respiratory distress and struggled to breathe. His parents rushed him to hospital for emergency care, but the child failed to respond to treatment and passed away. Hunsur Rural Station PSI Radha confirmed the incident and said no formal case had been registered. CPCB notice to tire producers, recyclers. The Central Pollution Control Board had issued show cause notice to tire waste recyclers and producers for failing to file annual returns. As per hazardous and other waste management and transboundary movement amendment rules 2022, tire producers and recycling units have to file quarterly and annual returns in the web portal of the union government. In separate notices, blanket freezing of bank accounts, violation of fundamental rights, High Court. In a significant ruling on the scope of police powers during financial investigations, the Jodhpur bench of Rajasthan High Court has held that banks cannot impose a blanket freeze on accounts at the behest of investigating agencies. The court stated that any restriction must be proportionate and confined to the amount under dispute. The observations were made during a hearing on March 19 in a case involving filmmaker Vikram Bhatt and co-petitioner Shwetambari Bhatt, whose accounts were fully frozen during a fraud probe. Allowing partial relief to them, the court directed that only the disputed sum of rupees 30 crore should be under restriction, as it permitted all other legitimate transactions to continue unhindered. ಆದ್ರೆ ಆಫ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ನಾನು. Fuel duty cut signals budget squeeze. A recalibration of fuel prices in India was inevitable due to the war in West Asia and the resultant crude crunch. The choking of the Hormuz Strait added a sense of urgency, pushing the government to slash the special excise duty on petrol and diesel by rupees 10 per litre, reducing it to rupees 3 on petrol and 0 on diesel. International crude prices have moved up to $116 per barrel. The global fuel prices have spiked up by 30 to 50%. The government's move was imperative because Indian oil marketing companies were under serious margin pressure. They have been incurring losses of around rupees 24 for petrol and rupees 30 for diesel per liter at current market prices. The cut in the excise duty will partially help to offset the OMC's under recovery. They are unlikely to pass the benefit on to same consumers because the cut does not fully compensate for their losses. The burden has now shifted to the government. Excise earnings from the petroleum sector account for a significant share of government revenues at the center and in the states. The sector's total contribution to the exchequer, including taxes, dividends, and royalties, in 2024-25 was 7.4 lakh crore, rupees 4.15 lakh crore for the central government, rupees 3.25 lakh crore for the states. The net revenue loss from the current crunch is loosely estimated at over 1 lakh crore. There is no certainty of being the last reduction in duties. Earnings in 2026-27 from special additional excise duties on petrol and high-speed diesel were projected at rupees 1.69 lakh crore. The revenue shortfall, even based on present estimates, will be substantial and can adversely affect budgetary circulations. The course of the war remains uncertain, raising fears of further disruptions in crude movement and heightened supply crunch. These escalations can drive crude prices higher, forcing more rounds of price adjustments. The government has also imposed an export tax on diesel as part of efforts to de-incentivize exports and to ensure that domestic demand is met. Being heavily dependent on imports, India has few options for managing fuel prices. Some countries have already started rationing and brought in changes in work schedules. The government has denied any plan for rationing. Retail prices have been kept unchanged in view of the assembly elections in 4 states and a union territory. Pump prices are likely to see a rise after the polls. OBC creamy layer revision with risks. The Karnataka government's proposal to raise the income ceiling for the other backward classes creamy layer from rupees 8 lakh to rupees 12.75 lakh signals a significant policy shift but warrants careful and dispassionate scrutiny. The current threshold, unchanged since 2018, has increasingly been criticized as outdated in the face of inflation and wage revisions following the 7th Pay Commission, which have pushed many beneficiaries into higher pay brackets and potentially rendered them ineligible for quotas. There are arguments for revisiting the limit to prevent the exclusion of middle class families whose nominal incomes have risen without a corresponding improvement in social mobility. It may also address concerns that the existing ceiling has become a barrier for sections that continue to face structural disadvantages despite modest economic gains. In that sense, a revision could restore a degree of balance to the eligibility framework. At the same time, the possible downsides are equally significant. A higher income ceiling risks expanding the pool of beneficiaries to include relatively advanced sections within OBCs, crowding out the most marginalized groups. The creamy layer principle was introduced to ensure that reservation benefits do not disproportionately accrue to the better off within backward classes. Any dilution of this filter could undermine that objective and sharpen intra-group disparities. The issue gains complexity in light of the recent Supreme Court ruling, which clarified that income cannot be the sole determinant of creamy layer status and social and occupational factors must also be considered. Drawing from the original intent of the Mandal Commission, it underscored that social backwardness, not merely economic criteria, lies at the heart of the reservation policy. This raises important questions about whether a simple upward revision of the monetary threshold in isolation would withstand legal scrutiny. In this context, the importance of empirical data becomes central. The state has its disposal the findings of the socio-economic and educational survey, which provides detailed insights into disparities across communities. Any revision of the creamy layer ceiling must be grounded in such evidence, in the line with the principles laid down in Indira Sani versus Union of India, which require a rigorous and contemporaneous assessment of backwardness. The proposed revision, therefore, cannot be viewed merely as an administrative decision. It carries implications for the balance within the reservation system. In navigating this terrain, the state government would do well to exercise caution, weighing both the need for a periodic revision and the risk of unintended consequences before arriving at a decision.
ಎಷ್ಟೊತ್ತಿಗೆ ಮುಗಿತಪ್ಪ ನಿಮ್ದು
ಯಾಕೆ
ಎಷ್ಟೊತ್ತಿಗೆ
ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. We often hear about fanatic fans who give up their lives to see or be with or for their idol. Many a time, these earnest hero worshippers end up being heroes because of their genuine attachment and involvement with their favorite person or a cause. The Kritivasa Ramayana introduces one such interesting episode in the Bengali version of the epic. Tarani Sen, the son of Vibhishana, was a great devotee of Rama. He and his entire body was tattooed with the name of his Ishtadevata. He spent all his walking hours meditating on Rama or by chanting his name. When Ravana abducted Sita, Vibhishana beseeched him to return Sita to her husband. But Ravana was not the one to relent. Then Vibhishana chose to secede from Lanka with a heavy heart and joined the enemy camp. However, Tarani Sen, the patriot, chose to stay back in his motherland. Soon a war was waged between the armies of Rama and Ravana. A few days into the war, Ravana summoned Tarani Sen to fight Rama. Rama was taken aback with his devotion and wondered how he could ever pierce through the fortress that encapsulated his name. At that point in time, Vibhishana called Rama aside and told him that the mouth of Tarani Sen was his weak spot because he had not etched the name of Rama on his teeth and tongue. But Rama said that would be of no use because Tarani Sen was chanting the name of Rama constantly. So Vibhishana suggested that arrows should be shot into the oral cavity of Tarani Sen between the brief interval of two chants. The Ikshwaku used his brief window to bring down the Tarani Sen, and immediately his eyes were flooded with tears. He noticed that Vibhishana was also in tears. It was then that Rama wanted to know whether Tarani Sen was Ravana's son, to which Vibhishana hatingly replied that Tarani Sen was his own son. The exiled prince was astounded by the father-son duo who had expressed their unflinching devotion to him in such a dramatic way. Thus, Vibhishana and Tarani Sen displayed staunch selflessness, courage, and unadulterated veneration towards Rama and gained greater glory than their god.
ತುಂಬ ತಿದ್ದಪ್ಪ
ಯಾಕೋ India is almost free of Naxalism, Shah tells Lok Sabha, emphasizing that one could now say that India is free of Naxalism. Home Minister Amit Shah on Monday blamed the Congress for the long spell of left wing violence in the country and attacked its top leader Rahul Gandhi, alleging that he too has become a Naxal due to his proximity with Maoists and that people will have to respond to him through elections. Replying to a short duration discussion on efforts to free the country from left wing extremism in Lok Sabha, he also claimed that Indira Gandhi's tussle for power within Congress during the 1969 presidential election, during which she got the support of the left parties, led her to fall into a firm grip of Maoists. In remarks a day before the March 31 deadline to eliminate Naxalism, he said under Prime Minister Narendra Modi, several efforts were taken to free the country from the menace and he can now say that Naxalism has been eliminated after 20 of the 21 CPI Central Committee or Politburo members either surrendered, arrested or got killed while talks are on with another who is on the run. Accusing Congress of doing nothing during its rule to tackle Naxalism, he said Maoists are almost eradicated now from Bastar in Chhattisgarh. He said power remained with the Congress for 60 of the 75 years, but tribals remained deprived of development to this day, and it is only with the arrival of Modi that actual development is taking place. The root cause of Naxalism is not the demand for development. It is an ideology that Indira ji embraced back in 1970 in order to win the presidential election. Naxalism has spread precisely because of this leftist ideology, he alleged. Targeting leader of the opposition in Lok Sabha, Rahul, he said the Congress leader was seen multiple times with Naxals in his long political career, including during his Bharat Jodo Yatra, in which several frontal Naxal organizations participated, and his meeting with Gaddar, whose ideology is closely aligned with Naxalism. When Naxal operative Hidma was killed, slogans were raised at India Gate that if one Hidma is killed, Hidma will arise from every house. A video of this was tweeted by Rahul Gandhi. From 1970 to March 2026, they supported Naxals. 20,000 people were killed because of Congress left ideology. The people of this country will have to respond to this in elections, he said, emphasizing that the Modi government will not tolerate any kind of violence and take strong action against anyone indulging in such acts. He said development in Naxal infested Bastar was stalled because the shadow of red terror loomed there. Now this shadow is lifting and Bastar is developing, he said, adding that the Modi government will not spare anyone who picks up arms. LPG crisis, center allocates PDS kerosene to states. Due to constrained LPG supplies caused by the ongoing West Asia conflict, the central government has made an ad hoc allocation of public distribution system kerosene to states and union territories for household use. The Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas issued a notification on Sunday granting temporary exceptions under the Petroleum Act 1934 and Petroleum Rules 2002. The order, which came into immediate effect, will remain valid for 60 days or until further orders. As per the notifications, up to two designated PSU oil marketing company service stations per district, preferably company owned, will be allowed to store up to 5,000 liters of kerosene subject to safety norms. Agents and dealers have been exempted from obtaining fresh licenses for decanting kerosene at these stations, and existing tank vehicles will not require additional permits. 19 ships stranded. Meanwhile, 19 ships carrying LPG, crude oil, and LNG destined for India are currently stranded in the Strait of Hormuz due to the escalating conflict. They include 3 LPG vessels, 4 crude oil tankers, and 3 LNG carriers so far. 8 Indian flagged vessels have sailed out safely. In a related development, the conflict has caused a 60% surge in natural gas feedstock prices for fertilizer plants, significantly increasing the government subsidy burden. Natural gas supply to fertilizer units has been restricted to 80% of demand, forcing companies to purchase costly LNG from the spot market. Department of Fertilizers Joint Secretary Aparna Sharma said the country had adequate stocks of fertilizers to meet demands for the upcoming Kharif season. The prevailing situation is vulnerable, but we have dealt with it strategically, he told reporters here. The Gulf region, which normally supplies 20 to 30% of India's urea, around 30% of DAP, and nearly 50% of LNG requirements, remains severely impacted, leading to higher input costs and freight charges. Okay, with this, I am going to stop reading today's newspaper, and tomorrow again I will come up with another one. Thank you for watching.